Hi, I'm Melinda Van Fleet, and welcome to the Confident Conversations podcast. I'm a confidence and peak performance coach, best-selling author, and speaker who helps businesswomen develop confidence to believe in themselves, take action, and get results. This podcast shares authentic and transparent, thought-provoking stories, tips, and tools from my experiences, as well as incredible guests, so you can continue to build your confidence and live your best life. Thank you for joining me. Let's get started on this confidence journey. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's Confident Conversations podcast. I am your host, Melinda Van Fleet, and thank you in advance for joining me. I launched my second solo book last week, Life and Love Lessons, How to Discover Confidence Through Your Spiritual Journey, and that is on Amazon. And I thank everyone for being so supportive. If you've already bought the book, thank you, thank you. If you've already left a review, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I just really love hearing the feedback. So I'm not going to go on and on because I want to dive right into this week's podcast, but I do want to say thank you. So I appreciate it. What I thought I'd share this week that popped up when I was having some quiet time, some meditation, is sharing some inside scoop on the self-publishing landscape. Because what I find is that a lot of people don't know a lot of the ins and outs and the details and even just some of the general thought processes. And it's one of those things that when you're involved in it, and this goes with anything in your life, I'm sure you would agree, you just kind of know it. And so you forget that someone else out there may not know the same information. So I wanted to share just my experience and point of view, which does not mean that you should take everything I say at face value, because as always, things I may have experience in or with are not, maybe the best fit for you. And that's the best thing about life, is really figuring out what path you wish to take and how you wish to evolve and grow on your journey. And so take little nuggets from people and mirror them or adapt them or disregard them, however you want to look at it, so you make the best out of your life in your experiences. I do not believe in necessarily following everyone else's blueprint. So these are just my experiences with having 3 books now total. And I just hope it sheds some light. And really also too, a huge intention is if you are struggling with having some confidence around writing a book, around being part of someone else's book series, I really hope that my experience helps you in a positive way, that it helps you make a decision to move forward if you are stuck. And hence, that's the whole gist of this podcast, right? That I confidently share my experiences, good or bad, so you can move forward and be unstuck. So if you follow me last year, you know that my husband, Ryan, and I were part of a co-authored book series called Brilliant Breakthroughs for the Small Business Owner. And that book series was the 4th annual. There will be one more this year, and then I think Maggie is not doing any more. And when I was first presented with the opportunity, I did not know anything about self-publishing, the book world, or being part of a co-authored book series. And that includes the pricing. So I just knew that I had books in me, in my heart and in my soul and in my brain, and I wanted to get going. So Ryan and I had put together an ebook earlier that year, right when COVID started actually, for his website as a freebie. So we kind of had like a little taste in writing together. And then I was like, well, I want to write a book, but I just didn't think that I had the time to get it done before the end of 2020 with all that we had going on in his business. And at the time I was still a sales rep, and then I was working on coaching and getting things up and running in my world, like newsletters and different things. And I just didn't think I had time to also write a solo book. So when the opportunity presented itself to be part of this co-authored book series, I really jumped at it because it was a great opportunity for Ryan and I to do something together to share our business experience. And being that we have a small business together, Good Karma Sport Fishing, it really just fit. It fit within Maggie's curation of her book. And I really thought it would also be a great opportunity to network and meet some fellow co-authors. The price was a lot in hindsight. I'm not going to lie. I want to say it was $3,500. That's a lot for a co-authored book series. Most co-authored book series are like $600, $800, $1,000, I've heard. And the difference that I can see in the price difference is that those co-authored book series that are like $1,000 or less have 25 authors, 25 co-authors. And this co-authored book series only had, I think, 11 if you count Maggie, 9 or 11. But it was, right around 10. And so definitely less, so you could rationalize that you're going to get more exposure. And Maggie also has a podcast series, so you got 5 podcasts in that bundle. And then she also had a summit, which was optional, which I did not choose to take part in just because of my schedule. So when you go down this path, if this is something that appeals to you to look to be part of a co-authored book series, I think it's nice to hear the different pricing and what's out there, because otherwise you might be going into this blindly like we did and end up paying, like $3,500. So would I rethink that in the future with the money? Maybe, but money is energy. It all comes back to you. It wasn't a hardship. It was fine. And I still think it was a really good experience. So what did that experience give us? Because it did not bring us business. I'm going to be really clear about that. It did not bring us business in regards to coaching opportunities or someone hiring us for consulting gigs. Does that mean that it may never happen? No, of course not. Things change. You never know the timing of, what's going on out there with the universe. So the door's not closed. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're doing a co-authored book series to maybe build your business and have income coming in from that, the chances are a little more slim than not. So I actually was going in with the intention of sharing and collaborating and then being able to achieve the international best-selling status that came with the book, which we did achieve that. We got international bestseller, we got best-selling business, and then we got best-selling bestseller in I think 11 other categories. It was a lot. So those were my intentions. I'm very intuitive, so I kind of had a feeling that this wasn't going to bring some big consulting gig, at least at this point in time. Does that mean I shut that energy off? No, it just means I was just kind of balanced about the whole thing. And I went in with just a really positive attitude in regards to collaborating and networking with the other authors. And I love to collaborate and network. So yes, one door led to another and then led to another, and that's been great. But I wouldn't also go in with this expectation that you are going to make great connections with all of the authors, because we're all people. And some people are into it. Some people are not. Some people you may mesh with. Some people you may not. And so just, know that too. Know that, not everyone's going to end up being some great connection, but you kind of test the waters and have conversations and see where it leads you. And some days it might lead to something right away. And some days, those conversations that might lead to something 5 years from now. So just keep an open mind and an open heart and just go with the flow on the networking piece of it. But what I love hearing is that people do really believe in these co-authored book series for the networking potential, and then obviously to get the title, the status of, bestseller, best-selling author next to your name in your bio, and for speaking gigs or any other presentations that you wish to give. So that was a really good experience. So then I was like, okay, great. Now for 2021, I've learned a little bit, and I am set up to do my own solo books for 2021. And originally I thought I could do 4. I quickly learned that 4 is a lot and that 3 is probably still a lot. However, I am an overachiever. I am an Aries human design 3-5 generator. So for me, I'm making use of time. It's pretty easy to write. It's not a big struggle. It's more of the other pieces that take a little bit more time on a calendar. But in general, that's not a big deal. But still, I scaled them back to 3 after my first book released, Confidence Mastery for Couples, which released in March. So just know when you look at the calendar, sometimes you might have these big aspirations and you're like, oh, I can do this. I can get 4. And then you kind of go, oh, no, yeah, that might have been biting off a little bit more than I can chew. So when I was in the co-authored book series, another thing I want to mention is I did not learn anything about the actual action that you need to take to launch the book. So we learned about marketing, obviously, through doing the marketing and understanding that you have to market a lot. But we didn't learn like how to load into Amazon or how to get ISBN numbers or how to copyright. Like you didn't learn like any of those details. We didn't learn about Rocket. We didn't learn about keywords. All of those skills, all of those actually tactical things that you need if you are going to self-publish. And I believe you should know this either if you're self-publishing with a third-party publisher or you're completely self-publishing like I did for Confidence Mastery for Couples and for Life and Love Lessons, and then for my third book, which will come out by the end of the year, that you have to figure out how to learn those things. You have to take some courses, online courses. You have to network. You have to get in some Facebook groups. You need to figure it out. And that did take a lot of time and some money to figure all that out for my first book. Now that I have all those learnings, I am good. It was easier for my second book. It'll be even easier for my third book, kind of like riding a bicycle. Once you learn, you kind of learn. And I am definitely working on putting together some type of course, because when you learn these things, if your intention is to continue to write, you do not need these third-party self-publishing companies that have popped up, pop, 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 like popcorn. And I'm not knocking that business model at all. But what I want you to think about is if you are looking to write your own book and self-publish, what is your intention there? Is your intention that you're just kind of one and done, and maybe you work a full-time job, maybe $3,000 to $5,000, which is what it costs to work with somebody like that, is not a hardship. No, it's no big deal. So you'd rather have some help, and you find one of those companies. Like I said, there's lots of them now, and that's cool. That's totally cool. I knew I was going to be writing more than one book. So to me, to use the time and money that I had to figure it out by myself and actually do all the things was worth it to me. Because once you figure it out, it's not hard. And after networking with several of these companies, I've learned that a lot of them don't do all the things that you still need to get done. So that is a piece of it when you're interviewing some of these third-party self-publishing companies. You need a kind of a list still to understand what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. And each one varies. The biggest thing they're going to do is promise you, I'm going to use that word, that you'll get to international bestseller or bestseller, and that may be your goal, which is great. That's really most people's goal in this whole process, right? To get the status, the title. And if you're not part of an if you're not part of a co-authored book series, then you're probably going to want to get that for sure on your first book. And so you may definitely choose the route of hiring a third-party publishing company to help you. I get it. It makes sense. Totally, it does. It makes sense. And there's nothing wrong with that. The other thing to keep in mind as you're interviewing those companies is that some of them even take a royalty. Think about that. What is that royalty agreement? Is it forever? Is it till you die? Is it 5 years? Think about that. And then make note of the pricing then that they may put the book at on the internet, even the ebook, and see where that pricing is in line with your niche. Does that make sense? Are they going to charge $22 for a book that might be like $12.99 for other books in the niche, like on wellness? Does that make sense to you? It may make sense and you're fine. But these are just things to think about. I just want you to think about them because they're things that I've noticed and seen over a period of time. So when the third-party publishing company is, expecting some royalties, then you've got to factor that into your pricing. So you make money, they make money, and of course Amazon's going to make their money first. So keep that in mind because they definitely make some money on that. I would say on average, Amazon is getting, I can just think about this, a little less than 50%, let's say 40% they're going to get. So just keep that in mind when you think about your pricing. So then I went on this journey for Confidence Mastery for Couples. That book launched on March 9th. And I did all the things. For months and months. And I actually really have fun doing it. I love doing it. I love having a bank of content, so it's easy. It's fun also getting my photographs taken with, I have a local photographer, Mary. She's amazing. So I highly recommend that. I highly recommend getting pictures taken. I struggled with getting pictures taken when I first started my coaching business and had my first photo shoot in December of 2018. I was a nightmare client for Jeanette. She was my first photographer. I was terrible. Oh my God, I was a stiff board. And now it's fun. We just have fun. We laugh and we make fun and I throw different things out there. I call her Annie Leibovitz and we just have a good time. I make silly faces and some of those shoots, those photos, I should say, are really the best ones because they're just me being me and that energy then comes out in the photos. So I highly recommend to anyone doing their own book to find a photographer to get some professional pictures taken. It's worth it. It's so worth it. So I did all the marketing. I had my ARC list of people for reviews. I did all the things. And yes, yay, I got to bestseller in 3 categories. And I have to say, I didn't obsess about it, but I did check on it frequently. Not crazy frequently, but frequently enough to see that I got bestseller. So I got bestseller in 2 meditation categories. I can't remember the specifics at this point in time, but it was 2 that were in meditation. And then 1 was short reads, which is really hilarious because short reads was a trigger for me that I write about in life and love lessons. So it ended up being one of the best-selling categories that I got. And Amazon had assigned that. So even though you may pick your own categories and then pick additional categories, which is something I'll talk about in my course, I still ended up in the short reads category and got bestseller for that. So anyhow, it was kind of interesting how that worked out. But for my 3rd book, my 2nd solo book, Life and Love Lessons, I was doing something different. I let it go. I followed up with the people that said they would help me and write reviews and read my book and be part of my launch team, but I didn't really check it all. I checked like the first day, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just really gonna let this go because I have other things to do, and I just want to kind of do this as a test and see how this ends up, and it'll be part of my story someday that I can share with others. Instead of obsessing and using a ton of masculine energy to follow up, like I did with the first book, I'm going to follow up with people once. And then if there's something kind of fishy, I might have to circle back a little bit. I did have someone that had something kind of fishy. I knew she wrote a review, and I actually just kind of followed up with her in terms of sharing with her what I think was the problem, because I think that someday she'll write her own book. So it'd be good for her to just have it as a learning. But I really just was like, you know what? I'm just going to let this go. And what really inspired me was a fellow author who has been on the Good Karma Success Coach podcast, Joy Andreasen, and she's going to be on that podcast again this coming Sunday, the 8th. And I know I'm putting a time out there in podcast world, but August 8th, 2021. And she'll be on the Good Karma Success Coach podcast again. And what she did for her second book is she just let it go too. She was like, I just feel like there are people out there in the world that are being called to read a book like this, and the book is for them. It's not for me. And it's my journey, and I'm sharing it. And it's so true. It's really true. So that's what I want people to think about is, what is your why? Why are you writing the book? Is it for you to have the bestseller status? And if so, maybe just being in a co-authored book series is a good way for you. Or writing a book and having a third-party publishing company help you because you're going to be one and done and you just want to get that status. Or maybe you have the status and you're just kind of like, you know what, let's just see how this goes. Because books last forever. That's what's so amazing. They last forever unless you take it down. They last forever. So someday, who knows, right? I may be speaking in front of thousands of people, and all of a sudden my book goes crazy, selling a shit ton of copies on Amazon, and I get like bestseller in like 20 categories, right? I don't know. I'm putting that out there. We'll see. But until then, I'm good. I'm good. The people that have read the book love it. It's been so fun to hear from people. I just got another friend who messaged me today on Facebook, and it's just been really fun experience without a shit ton of masculine energy, without that constant follow-up, checking, follow-up, checking, which is what you do. So you can let go of that energy if you've already achieved initially what you wanted to achieve. And now you're just like, you know what, this is big picture now. This is big picture. This book is a longer book that I wrote. I shared so many amazing, inspiring stories that even like my husband has never heard. And it's just meant to help others in the world. And I didn't need to put all that energy behind it and bug everybody to write reviews, because when you're in a co-authored book series, that's how they get that status, is because there's 25 authors that are asking, 15 to 20 of their friends to buy the book when it launches and then leave a review. There's a process to it. And again, there's nothing wrong with the process. That's the process. That's how it works. So when you see someone posting, hey, we got bestseller today in 5 categories, it's because everyone asked their friends and family to buy the book and then write reviews. That's how it works. And then I can bet you that the sales pretty much drop off to trickles, because there are so many books out there. So unless you have a name, unless I've even done Amazon ads, I don't even think that really has been that beneficial. But again, this is a long road. Time will tell. So unless you're a big name or something happens, you get discovered, you get known, your book is going to be in the trickles. And it's not like making millions of dollars out there. So you have to realize, what is your why in writing this book, and being good with that. And whatever that is for you is fantastic. Whatever that is for you is fantastic. But I at least wanted to share my experience to date and how it's been and how I've just come to a really good place. And you know what? For my third book, I don't even know. Will I have an ARC team? I have no idea. I've kind of thought about that and like, I don't even know. I might just put it out there because it's going to be a juicy one. It's not coaching. So we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'm going to start writing it in September. So the month of August, I'm working on a big presentation and on courses and other things for this month. And we'll start writing it in August and September, and we'll see how it transpires. We'll kind of go with the flow in the essence of life and love lessons. I'm going to let it go and see what ends up happening and how the energy is around it and see what, we'll just see. That's the fun part of life, right? The journey, the evolving, the learning, the sharing, and just doing the best you can every day. Every day I do the best I can. And the best I can is listening, learning, applying, evolving, and seeing what the next path takes me to. So I hope you like this podcast. I hope if you're someone out there that has been thinking about writing a book or being in one of these series and you just don't know much about it, it just kind of shares some insight and some of my findings and maybe a couple nuggets that you're like, oh, I didn't know that's how much it costs. Or I didn't realize that you still have to take care of certain things. I thought it was just done for me. No, there are things you still probably have to take care of. And I also thought I'd share one more thing, that if you are trying to get with a big publisher, and this is really well known out there, this is not a secret, but all of those people will tell you that you're still the one that has to do the marketing. You're still the one. So do some research on that too. It's not like you get a contract with one of these big publishing houses and they do everything for you. Now you're on their timeline. They probably have things that they require from you and expect. And they're going to give you money. That's fantastic. But there might be other things out there to think about. So a lot of people don't realize that as well. You know, there's a big podcaster and oh my God, did he market his book? Market. So many emails. And quite frankly, that's not my jam. I don't want to be that person that's so like in your face, marketing. If that worked for him, that's totally cool. Again, whatever works for you is great. But for me, that was just not what I wanted to do. I don't want to be on 100 podcasts talking about my book. That's a lot. That's a lot. And it's a lot of the same information over and over and over. And that's not my jam. I love different information and different tools and tips from different people. So I was like, wow, kudos to him for having the stamina. But when I look at my journey, it wasn't something that was like appealing to me. So I was like, you know what? I'm so glad I'm on my path and I'm just going to stay on my path because this is what works for me. So find out what works for you, figure out what your why is, and take some action. I hope this builds your confidence. Thanks for listening. Please connect on the socials. Have a good one.